Hello everyone, thank you for joining the PCI PIN Basics webinar. This webinar should take approximately 40 minutes. Before we start, I'll cover a few housekeeping items. We will take time for questions at the end. Please submit all questions in the chat window. If you're not able to hear your question on today's webinar, our team will follow up by email. If you have audio or visual issues, please type them in the chat window and the moderator will try their best to resolve your issues for you. Today's slides and webinar recordings will be provided to everyone registered via email early next week. To view our webinars on other regulations, please visit our website at www.controlcase.com. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Ed for all of the latest updates and upcoming webinars. Okay, let's get started. My name is Chad Leedy, and I'm the head of strategic accounts for retail compliance. And joining me today is my colleague, Biju John. Hi, Biju.
Hello, Chad. Hey, hello, everyone. I'm Biju John, Senior Vice President of Global Payment Products at ControlCase. My area is responsible for PCI certification, including P2PE, the software, secure software lifecycle, card production and provisioning, DSP, 3DS, and PIN.
Great, thank you, Biju. Well, today our agenda will be an introduction to PCI PIN, a brief look into the standard, scope and applicability, the certification process, and then we'll do a brief Q&A. So first, let's talk about ControlCase. ControlCase is the leading provider of compliance as a service with a subscription-based offering, bundling our proprietary GRC software and managed services. ControlCase is truly revolutionizing the way enterprises and organizations deal with numerous and frequently changing IT compliance and regulatory requirements. Our proprietary offering, combined with our software certification audit and managed services on a single platform, has made compliance easier for our clients. ControlCase was founded in 2004 and is currently serving over 1,000 customers with over 300 team members worldwide. We're able to service our clients globally with offices located in the United States, Latin America, Europe, India, and Canada. We're an IT compliance manager for all industry segments, including banking, service providers, retail, hospitality, and telecom, just to name a few. As the compliance partners to our clients, we have the ability to go beyond just the checklist auditor. This helps our clients reduce time, cost, and the burden of maintaining their IT compliance as they become certified across many different regulations. Through this unique partnership approach, plus technology, utilizing the ControlCase Compliance Hub portal, our clients are able to complete certifications and achieve continuous compliance, all from one platform. Through the One Audit, Access One, and Comply to Many, ControlCase is able to serve our clients across over a dozen regulations in parallel. Now let's dive into our topic today on PCI PIN Basics. So Biju, can we start with a high-level overview of the PCI standards?
Sure, Chad. Payment Card Industry Security Standards Council, also known as PCI SSLCA, was established in 2006 by leading card brands. The current brand members are Amex, Visa, MasterCard, JCB, Discover, and UnionPay. The PCI Council develops and maintains the standard and its associated programs. They are responsible for providing certifications to assessors, including training, exams, also provide tools and resources that help assessors as well as certifying entities. They also publish webinars and white papers for supporting the standard compliance program. Is that clear, Chad?
Yeah, thanks, Biju. Can we dive a little bit deeper into the family of PCI standards?
Sure. I'll start with DSS and then continue with the other assessment, other standards. The DSS PCI Data Security Standard covers security requirements for entities that stores, processes, or transmit account data. The standard covers the environment. The SSS Secure Software Standard covers the software that handles payment data, examples such as payment switch or gateway. The SSLC, Secure Software Lifecycle Standard, is to address the secure development process for payment applications. P2PE, the standard is for end-to-end secure communication that protects payment data. TSP, this standard covers token service providers, focusing on acquiring token defined by EMICO. CPP, also known as Card Protection and Provisioning Standard, covers the physical and logical controls for the card and PIN protection. 3DS covers the controls required to implement 3DS, which are additional security layers that help unauthorized card-not-present transactions and protect the merchant from fraud. Now, PIN. The standard covers controls required for the security of personal identification number, also known as PIN. PIN data is usually associated with debit cards, card-present transactions, which we commonly use, ATMs, POI devices, where it is used in malls and other locations. We'll be covering more on PIN standard in this webinar.
Great. Thanks for walking through the family of standards for us, Biju. Can we go into more about the PCI PIN security and what that entails?
Sure. So what is PIN? Personal identification number, right? That's the PIN. So standard, the main objective is to assist all retail electronic payment system participants with assurance that cardholder PIN will not be compromised. So it contains a set of requirements for secure processing and transmission of PIN and address cryptographic keys that protect the PIN. The PIN security covers PIN-related systems and activities. During card-present transactions initiated at POI, ATMs, or MPOC by debit card, the interacting device requests a PIN. So a little bit about MPOC here. The MPOC payment on cards standard is set of requirements for accepting payments on commercial off-the-shelf or known as COTS devices, such as smartphones. It is a new and interesting development in the payment industry. We will cover this topic in a future webinar. Now, the current version of PIN is 3.1. The assessment must be performed by a QPA or qualified PIN assessor. The QPA must assess against a standard published by the PCI. Additionally, the Council releases FAQs periodically, which clarify many controls with detailed description and with exact intent. This is particularly helpful for assessors and clients. It is also important to note that FAQ must be assessed during the assessment. Once the assessment is complete, the assessor company publishes ROC, Report on Compliance, AOC, Attestation of Compliance. Depending on the assessed entity status, the assessor may publish a compliant or a non-compliant report. All applicable controls must be satisfied in order to get a compliant status. So mainly this is what PIN standard is, Chad.
Great. Thank you, Biju. So can you talk through what organizations that the standard applies to?
Yes, so PIN applies to acquiring entities. That's acquiring entities means they acquire the PIN for transactions. For example, banks such as Wells Fargo, HSBC, or Bank of America, etc. Processes such as PayPal, Paytm in India, Flutterwave in Africa, so on and so forth. Third-party agents. These are agents that act on behalf of the acquiring entities. For example, these include those that perform key management, key injection on POI devices or ATMs, and some may be more for remote key loading services. Note that brands can also request an entity to become PIN certified whenever they deem it necessary. The requirement depends on various factors determined by the card brands. Also note that issuers, there is a lot of requests coming up for the issuers for assessment. Entities that issue cards and PIN need not be certified. If an entity has both issuing and acquiring services, only the acquiring side needs to be assessed.
Great. And so who actually enforces these standards?
Okay, the managing PCI compliance is usually by the entities. That standard is valid for 2 years. We know that card brands are ultimately responsible for the compliance program. The card brands track the entity's PIN compliance, review the compliance status. They also review the validate requirements and enforce them if necessary. Though the standard is published by SSC, the compliance is mandated by card brands. Entities can reach out to card brands through their POC for certifications regarding validation requirements.
Great. Thanks, Biju. So can we go into the standards in more of a deep dive?
Sure. The standard consists of a main body and annexes. It is organized into 7 control objectives and 2 annexes. The main body is also known as transaction processing operation. This has specific requirements pertaining to occurring and related processing of PIN-based transactions. We'll cover them in detail later. At the normative annexes, these are related to remote key loading and key injection facility.
Great. And if we could walk through the 7 control objectives in more detail, Biju, that would be helpful.
Okay. So 7 control objectives, right, as we said earlier. The control objective 1, the main purpose here, that clear PIN should not appear outside of secure devices, collectively called secure cryptographic devices or SCD. POI devices, host security modules or HSM, and key loading devices or KLD are examples of this. Control objective covers the required certifications such as PCI PTS, FIPS 140-2, level 3, etc., etc. Control objective 2, when you hear the PIN standard, you hear reference to cryptographic keys. These are used to secure the clear PIN. It covers how these keys are generated. It must be compliant with approved random process such as NIST 800-22. Control objective 3, as you have noticed, the security of key is essential, important as PIN. Therefore, it should be handled securely. Compromise of cryptographic key means compromise of PIN. So it addresses how the keys are transmitted or conveyed both internally and externally to the entity. Control objective 4, once keys are generated and shared, it should be securely loaded into respective SCDs. In other words, it covers the secure loading of keys. Control objective 5 covers the uniqueness of keys. Each key must have a defined role and purpose. This is also to safeguard the keys from misuse and compromise. Control objective 6, here we address the human interaction of keys. Key must be administered securely at all times. Always securely within the SCD or key components are encrypted. Principle of dual control, split knowledge comes in play here. The control objective 7, all SCDs or cryptographic devices must be in production once the entity gets assurance from substitution or compromise. Here we cover the equipment such as HSM, POI devices from manufacture up to deployment.
Thanks, Biju. Can you explain more about the normative annexes?
Yeah, so PIN has 2 main annexes, Annex A and Annex B. The Annex A covers the remote key loading of cryptographic devices and CARA. Annex B is for key injection facilities, or called as KIF. The PO device can be loaded with cryptographic keys in 2 methods, right? Basically locally and remotely. We have seen earlier that keys must be securely loaded into SCDs. That intent in mind, all the processes which load keys must be secure. If the entity has a large number of POI devices, for example, they are widely deployed, remote key loading is an obvious choice. So secure controls that needs to be implemented are covered in Annex A. It is divided into 2 parts further, A1 and A2. A1 for distribution of or occurring keys using some asymmetric keys such as RSA. A2 covers the controls for certificate authority and registration authority, or CARA, for the use of asymmetrical key distribution to the PIN encryption keys. The other option is to load the key locally, right, as we've seen. Happens in KIF. This means that POI device must be physically connected to the key loading device, or KLD, to load the keys. NXP covers the security controls required for the local key injection process, both physical and logical. So here we covered the transaction processing operation and annexes, Chad.
Great, thank you, Biju. So we've talked about what PCI PIN is, who it applies to, and who enforces PCI PIN. And then you did a great job of jumping into the 7 control objectives. Can we talk a little bit about how ControlCase handles the PCI certification process and our methodology specifically?
Sure, Chad. This is very interesting. The ControlCase has well-defined and structured process for every assessment. These are organized in phases, as you can see, phase 1 to phase 5. These phases with defined milestones. So each phase has a clear process, and milestones are discussed with the client and agreed upon during the onboarding process. The scoping is the most important phase, where we understand entities' business processes, technologies used, any showstoppers. Once the scope is defined, the assessors move to phase 3, the technical assessment. During this phase, the QPA reviews all applicable controls and validates and collects appropriate evidence. Control testing can be on-site or remote, or a combination of both, depending on the client's environment and requirements. During the assessment, control reviews and evidence collections are performed using ControlCase proprietary portal. You have mentioned about our portal earlier in the phase. This is called Compliance Hub. The evidence is securely stored here as per the Council's guidelines. Once the technical assessment is complete, the report are prepared. They go to a rigorous process of quality assurance program within ControlCase. And once it passes, we will release the ROC and AOC to the client. Hope this helps, Chad.
Yeah, thank you very much, Biju. And thank you for sharing your expertise and talking about ControlCase's expertise in the PCI PIN area. So why ControlCase? ControlCase's partnership approach with a combination of technology and managed services is really truly what makes the compliance and certification process easier for our clients. Now, we'd like to answer your questions in the chat. Don't worry if we don't get to your specific question. We'll be responding to all questions within the next few days. So, Biju, I'm going to pop up the questions that we have so far. The first one that we have is, we understand that the PIN applies to acquirers. We don't manage ATMs and POI devices. Can we still be certified under PIN?
Yes, Chad. The PIN can be certified to acquirers who handle PIN transactions regardless of whether they own or manage ATMs or POI devices. We review the PIN transaction processing area and validate applicable controls.
Great, thanks. Next question we have in the chat is a host security module or HSM mandatory for PIN assessment? And if yes, should it be PCI PTS or FIPS certified?
Great question, Chad. HSM is an integral part of PIN assessment. So it processes key management, and is also the only device that can see clear text and clear cryptographic keys. So PCI PTS or FIPS 140-2 level 3 certification is mandatory. Note that clients should not only be certified, but also demonstrate that it is implemented in a compliance mode.
Great. It looks like we have a follow-up question. Can they use cloud HSMs?
Absolutely. Yeah, many cloud HSMs are available that are certified under FIPS 140-2 level 3 and acceptable functions these days.
All right, we have time for a couple more. Thanks, Biju. Here's one. There are additional controls that are applicable based on some new dates. Are there any compensating controls if an entity cannot meet those dates?
That's an interesting question. These controls are part of the standard and must be complied. However, if the controls cannot be met due to business or technical reasons, compensating controls can be considered. It is important to note that compensating controls may be reviewed by the branch. So it is very important. It's over and beyond the control itself.
Great. Thank you, Biju. So we have time for one more question. Visa has updated its PIN assessment guidelines. What are the changes?
Okay, so in its recent program update, Visa informed that PCI PIN validation documents need not be submitted to Visa. So earlier, all the acquiring entities used to submit to Visa to list under their global registry. That will not happen. On the other notable observation is that the same QPA may perform assessment more than 2 cycles for the same entity.
Great. Thank you, Biju. And thank you so much for all the great information today on the webinar. Again, we'd like to thank you for joining our webinar today. This session was recorded, and the recording will be available in a couple of days. If you'd like more information on or need any additional information on this topic, or for more information about ControlCase's offerings, please contact us at the link in the webinar, and we'll get back to you shortly. Until then, we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a great day.
Goodbye, all.